Shareholders of both SABMiller and AB Inbev have raised their glasses and approved a $104 billion mega brew merger. But was the outcome ever in doubt? It was initially. The South African government then agreed to the T's and C's of the contract. Carlos Brito got his way, and the global regulators have basically told it to sell off different assets around the world and create the world's biggest brewing company. This is the Moneymakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight I'm joined by Gilmour, who's an investment analyst at Barclays Wealth and Investment Management, and Sasha, Naryshkine, director at Vestact, to talk about what the deal means for the JSE, for tax for shareholders who choose to sell, for unit trusts who now have to reweight their funds, and of course if you're an index investor and SAB disappears out of the index, suddenly you have a disproportionate holding there in Naspers, which for now is not necessarily a bad thing. So there's lots of beer to flow under tonight's bridge. The name, Gilmour, is gone. SABMiller, as of close of trade Friday, no longer exists. It was founded in 1895,
yep.
Listed in 1897.
Yep. Listed in London in 1999, March.
Making it the second oldest company still listed on the JSE.
BBC.
No.
Is there another one?
Which one is it?
I don't know.
Ah, you see. DRD was the first listing on the JSE, 1895.
Yeah.
I know nobody thinks about it anymore. But it's the end of Charles Glass, it's the end of the legacy, it's the end of the name as we know it. Do you feel a sense of personal loss and trauma with this?
Am I crying into my beer? No. Yeah, look, it's the end of an era, you're right, Bruce. And I mean, I think if we're going to be very, very objective about this, SAB, South African Breweries, SABMiller, call it what you like, is, in my humble opinion, the best company that this country has ever produced by a country mile. Huge. And I think that is reflected in its outstanding success in the world.
I think we may have a fight on our hands. Best company South Africa's ever produced, Sasha, Naryshkine.
He's obviously got a very short memory because you just spoke about Naspers moments ago.
It doesn't make it a great company. It makes it a lucky company. It makes it a good investment. How's it a better company than SABMiller?
Gilmour's nuts, clearly.
I'm thinking more in terms of their global coverage, Sasha. The fact that you've taken a company at the outer fringes of Africa, on the southern tip, and now they're represented in just about every country in the world.
Naspers, yes.
No, I'm talking about SAB here. And the fact they've managed to do that in a relatively short space of time, you can argue that Naspers is... Look, I'm not taking anything away from Naspers. I'm just talking about that global coverage.
In your opinion.
But you see, it's his emotional connection to a great South African story and to what it produces, of course. He drinks more beer than he reads Brazilian Playboy, which is also owned by Naspers.
That's a good thing, yeah.
Now, Sasha Naryshkine, do you feel any sense of loss at all? Is this just part of the cut and thrust of listings and markets?
Well, if you want the assets, you can actually get them and more, because AB Inbev is listed here. So, it's not as if you've lost anything. If anything, you've gained something through this whole process.
Have you actually gained anything? Because what you've gained is 10 years of pain and anguish, as despite the fact that these guys are brilliant deal makers and they've put together Anheuser and Busch and InBev and every other deal that they've done in the past.
1 in 3 beers in the world, Bruce.
By far the biggest deal ever consummated in the world of brewing. You're buying a problem, surely, if you take up shares in AB Inbev.
That's whether or not you think that this Brazilian private equity crowd led by Carlos Brito can sweat these assets better than anybody else. And that's what SABMiller were masters at. So this is kind of trying to teach the master.
Aren't we sitting on another EdCon? Are we sitting on another problem where AB Inbev has taken extraordinary levels of debt? AB Inbev has taken extraordinary levels of debt to do a big acquisition of this kind. 10 years from now, we look back at this deal and we say, that smells just like EdCon did in those days. Remember Edgar's? Remember Jet? Are we going down that path?
Except the one was 26 billion rand. This is $104 billion.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a quantum of greater chaos, potentially.
Look, if you're going to back any private equity team on the planet, which Warren Buffett has backed these guys in a deal before, so you would think he knows and he's done his homework in terms of backing a specific team. The difference is they're not Mr. Nice Guy. They're pretty ruthless. And even Jan du Plessis, the chairman, was quoted as saying something like, it's their company now, they can do with it
As they please.
As they please.
I mean, and so Chris Gilmour, look, he's down
He's
in the
sad.
mouth tonight.
I
He's
know,
sad.
but look, I see a number of incipient problems for AB InBev. One, they've now run out of beer companies to buy. To bulk up from this level is going to be very, very difficult. Bruce, you made the point, we're at the low point of the interest rate cycle, so their debt is going to be expensive. It's going to take somewhere between 6 and 8 years to digest this, given the fact they paid a 50% premium for SAB. And lastly, but probably the most important factor here, the real reason they bought SAB was to get into Africa, the final frontier. Latin America, they've got huge, big chunks. But it's an interesting analogy you make. South America has got, it's a continent roughly the size of Africa, but it's only got 12 countries, maybe 13 if you include British Guyana. It's got 2 main languages. Africa's got 54 countries. It's got goodness knows how many languages and 2,000 different dialects. So trying to get into all of these countries is very, very difficult. And SAB was very, very clever, along with Castell, in getting in here. It remains to be seen whether AB InBev will be able to have the same degree of success as SAB. Now, interestingly enough, they've chosen, in their infinite wisdom, to take none of the senior ranking SABMiller Africa executives
So Mark
into the
Bowman's
new
out,
board.
is he?
Mark Bowman's got 6 months and he's gone.
Yeah,
So they only actually took one.
yeah.
And he's a Colombian.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so here is the scenario for investors in SABMiller. They've got a choice. They can take the money and run. They can stay invested in Anheuser-Busch InBev if they choose to do. What does the smart investor do with the spoils of that check that comes, if it still comes as a check, maybe it's just a digital transfer.
If you've still got a share certificate.
What is the smart thing to do?
Well, I suppose if you were really smart a few months ago, you would have sold out of
At
SAB.
900 rand
at
a share.
or close on 1,000 rands a share. But at this point in time, at around about 780, 790, the cleanest way is to take the cash. It depends on your time horizon. If you want to go for the long term, and look, Sasha makes a good point, AB is still a very, very good company. It remains to be seen whether they'll be able to get the same kind of growth from an organic perspective as they've done from an
They'll
acquisitive
spend the first
basis.
2 or 3 years slashing costs. That's
Yeah.
what
Probably
anybody
a bit
does in
longer than
acquisition.
that, I think. Yeah.
But they'll slash and burn. That will have a growth consequence initially, anyway. So the smart idea is to take the money and run. Sasha, would you take the money and run?
Well, I mean, you're speaking to somebody who doesn't own any of the shares. So I've just got a passing interest
if you
in
owned 100 SAB shares, would you take the money and
I
invest
think
it
you
in
should take
Naspers?
you should take the money. I mean, in pound terms, it's delivered you a 7-fold increase since listing, more. I think it's nearly 8 now.
Since 1999, since it listed
in
London,
pound terms.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty decent return. And a lot of that heavy lifting's been done since 2008. So in actual fact, you've outperformed significantly because the FTSE's last kind of high was what? End of 1999.
Yeah, long
wasn't
time.
it?
No, you're right.
So
Yeah.
it's absolutely crushed any index anywhere in the world. So there's a case to be made, if you've held them for that long, to say, okay, well, let me apportion maybe some money, if I like beer drinking, to AB InBev. And I think that they can sweat the costs. And also, it's a story of urbanization in Africa and brand recognition. So I think there is room for them to move higher. But, you know, it's beer drinking. Even Gilmour and I can make our own beer in our backyard if we wanted
But
to.
that's it. Is it not better to go and take the money and invest in your own brew kit? And that way you've got
No dividends on that one, Bruce.
guaranteed supply. Okay, so what happens then to an index investor? I know both of you are allergic to index investors, but let us say, for example, that you've got 100 units in the Satrix 40. The Satrix 40 is already overweight SAB and overweight Naspers and overweight British American Tobacco. I think it's in there. And a couple of others. There are 4 or 5 shares that make the going in Satrix 40. Suddenly you take hefty SAB out of that index and Naspers makes up more than 20%.
But you must remember that more than 80% of the share register had moved to the UK over time. So the weighting in the index wouldn't be 100% of SABMiller. So you would lose quite a big portion, but it's not like you're losing $1 trillion.
Fair enough, good point. But there is still now an even greater disproportionate weighting to a Naspers, for example.
Well, if people start buying AB Inbev en masse, then it's going to shift in that direction, and that's a much bigger company. So, it's like a herd of giant elephants. If you want to own them for the long run, because everyone's trying to beat that and they never beat it, just hold the index if you're a passive investor.
There we go. But you're snide. Look at that.
No, I'm not. I think that's the best. I mean, I often think that that's the best quality advice Buffett gave the world. Said after he's gone, his wife's just going to own the index because everyone tries to beat that and they can't.
Exactly. No, it's smart investing. So we wake up on Monday morning. SAB is history.
Gone. Yes. Unfortunately. But look,
it's like a man in mourning. I'm surprised he hasn't worn his funeral suit. Oh, that is your funeral suit. You only have one.
But Sasha rightly says, look, AB Inbev has been listed on the JSE since January. So you do have an avenue if you want to come and follow the fortunes of SAB, albeit in diluted form. You can do it via AB.
Okay, but what was your one? If you had 100 SAB shares and you sold them and you converted that to cash, what would you do with the money today, as of this moment in time?
I'd buy pharmaceuticals and medicine businesses and consumer businesses. Well, I think
locally.
Aspen.
Because it's under pressure.
Yeah, it's been under pressure since its results. I mean, I think that's...
And at $300, it's cheaper than it was at 600.
We never got to 600. I think 440 is its high.
Felt like 600.
Felt like a lot. That's what I would do.
The fall. Okay, yeah. You would go take the bitter pill, and you would take
anesthetics.
Aspen,
yeah.
and
they work better than beer.
Exactly. You, Chris Gilmour, have given you enough time to ponder.
I'd probably go and buy some more Naspers. I mean, we're seeing target price up to about 3,000. I always get the
by Christmas.
Oh yeah, but 3,000 rand. Yeah.
Who's giving you that target price?
Yeah. Well, no, we've been working on this one for quite a while.
Okay.
Oh.
I think we need to do another Naspers show at some point.
I think so.
Chris Gilmour, thank you very much. Sasha Naryshkine, thank you very much. What an interesting discussion. Chris Gilmour, investment analyst at Barclays Wealth and Investment Management, in mourning tonight as SABMiller's demise draws closer. By the close of business on Friday, it'll be no more. Sasha Naryshkine from Vestact also. And as we say goodnight to you, we say goodbye to SABMiller. It'll be swallowed up, guzzled by AB Inbev, the new corporate identity, AB Inbev, as it was. Good night.